Tara Lennox is the owner of Adventures Assembled Travel Agency. She's also a military spouse, and she joins us now to talk a little bit more about PCSing and making your PCS trip a little bit more fun. Tara, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a mil spouse, so let's start with a normal question. How many PCSs have you done?
We have, as a family, done 9 PCS moves, pretty much all over the United States, but we have not done the big overseas PCS. So all 9 have been in the US.
Nice, nice. So no Oconus, nothing wrong with that. So we were talking earlier about the fun things that you can do along the way. Give us some ideas as a travel agent for things that maybe we wouldn't think of hitting along the way when we're going from point A to point B.
I know for my family, a lot of the destinations that we choose, we usually kind of allow our kids to give us some input. We like to make PCS as much fun as possible and not just about a move. So, allowing them to have some input on the things that they enjoy most tends to be the way that we go. Over the years, that has brought us to places like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, um, various aquariums. We always try to find a really cool children's museum. We found a really great one a few years ago in Missouri that we really enjoyed. Obvious things like zoos and national landmarks are really fun. We also made a major detour one time to see the largest Superman statue in Metropolis. So lots of different destinations that you can go outside of just the typical everyday things like just stopping at a resort and swimming in a pool. We also really enjoy, obviously, the bigger things like Disney World, Universal Studios, SeaWorld. All of these places have really great military discounts. So when you're PCSing, why not tap into some of those great discounts that you can get?
Mhm. So, talk to me a little bit about that. I know we were talking off camera about trying to do the big stops like Disney and stuff on a PCS. You probably don't have the whole week to spend, but if you've got a few days, how do you, as a travel agent, recommend going about it?
So the beauty of, for example, Disney and Universal vacations with military discounts is that their tickets are not um, like the standardized tickets where you have a start date and an end date. They are good for the entire year. So a lot of times, what ends up working out really nicely for military families is you can do a short PCS, maybe stay in Disney for 2 days and use 2 day tickets. And then later on in the year, maybe you can find a weekend to go back and use the other 2 days. Military tickets typically come in 4 and 5 day passes. So you get to utilize them throughout the year. Universal is even better in terms of military discounts in that sense because they don't have a expiration at all, or excuse me, a blackout date at all throughout the year. So you can use it over Christmas time too, which ends up being a big bonus for a lot of families as well.
I know we get to do SeaWorld before our last PCS. Highly recommend that one, and definitely trying to squeeze it in for some fun because that's what we learned. We have a 5-year-old and keeping the kids. I love what you talked about earlier with letting the kids weigh in and making it a little bit
Mhm.
more about them. So you mentioned a little bit about military discounts. Give us a little
Mhm.
bit more information on the military discounts that are available, and then also where we go to find them.
So the for theme parks specifically, I will talk about those first. Disney World, Disneyland, and Disney Cruise Line even do have some great military discounts available. And I should say that Disney Cruise Line is not something that people can um, that is something that people can consider for a PCS as well, because they do have cruises as short as 3 nights that you can hop on a long weekend. So I just did want to say that too, because people often think cruises are going to be really long and you don't have time for that. So you may absolutely have time for that as well. And their discounts are actually offered at the very last minute. So it works out really nicely if you don't know when or where you're PCSing to until the last minute and you're scrambling for something fun to do. So they work out really well for that. In terms of Disney World, you have ticket discounts as well as room discounts, and you get your tickets from your local ITR. And then for the room only, I recommend, obviously, if you have a travel agent, I would use them for assistance in getting your room booked. They can book all the same military discounts, all the same package inclusions, and they offer extra services for you. Universal, they have what's called the Freedom Pass. This is a discounted ticket, and it's good for the entire year. It's an annual pass, essentially. You pay one flat rate, and you have admission for the entire year. So it's a really, really great deal. They offered it starting last year, and they extended it through the next year, and it's really an amazing deal. You don't have to purchase those tickets in person at your base. You can actually put them in a package with a room on property, and that actually saves you a lot of time and convenience, and it's just easier to bundle it all together and get all the discount packages together. In terms of SeaWorld, those are free for military. So if you don't use them, you can only use them once a year, but it's a great deal. What's not great about free? so, so I always recommend stopping at SeaWorld if you're going to have an opportunity to do so in Orlando.
Absolutely. And I had no idea that there were actually 3-day cruises. So now my wheels are turning a little bit now. So we may be looking at a little bit more of a vacation than I thought. I love it. So we talked earlier about you don't always get to make the greatest plan and it's kind of a little rushed. So sometimes we have to resort to just the basics. Give us some stuff that maybe we can do for free that maybe we wouldn't think about as being a PCS stop, but it might work.
So I would say a lot of you'd be surprised how many national landmarks actually offer free admission for military. I'll use St. Augustine as example. They have an awesome fort that you can visit along with St. Augustine. If you haven't been, is amazing town. They have a little artsy street with lots of restaurants and craft and small businesses. They have lots of live music. They have a beautiful beach. They have lots of little museums. And then, like I said, the fort, which is a gorgeous location right on the water that you can take some amazing pictures from the top. And that's free admission for military. They also have a junior ranger program that you can participate in, which actually connects with many other national historic locations throughout the country. So those types of places are going to be free for military in most destinations, to include places like Puerto Rico. San Juan has a couple of those free, which are also free admission for military as well. Other destinations would just be simple beach stops. You can make beach stops along the way from anywhere from Virginia all the way down. As we talked about, SeaWorld and Busch Gardens, which are also, it's a whole program that's free. So you can have admissions to Busch Gardens Tampa, SeaWorld Orlando, SeaWorld in San Diego, as well as Busch Gardens in Williamsburg. So there's lots of different destinations, plus Sesame Place in Pennsylvania, actually, too. A lot of people forget that that's part of their program as well.
We did Sesame Place before we left DC, and I highly recommend it. If you have young kids, that is totally the way to go. So one of the things
Yeah.
that I didn't say about Tara in the intro is she also specializes in traveling with children with special needs, specifically autism. So Tara, talk to me a little bit about that if you can, and just the services that you offer to families with children with special needs.
Sure. So I am a certified autism travel professional. And basically, that's just a fancy way of saying that I do extra training to make sure that I can assist families who have members on the autism spectrum travel more stress free. There are lots of opportunities and destinations out there from places like SeaWorld, Disney World, Universal. Universal actually just opened a brand new spot in the resort where you can just kind of take a break and play games and get away from noise or loud crowds, which I thought was fantastic. Places like beaches, resorts who are located, they currently have 3 destinations. They're about to open 2 more, but they're in Jamaica and Turks and Caicos right now. They have thoroughly trained their kids club staff to help members with who may be on the autism spectrum. Um, so from my perspective, how I work with with families is once they let me know that they have a member that might need a little bit of extra help traveling, I find out in more detail what those needs are going to be, whether it be sensory specific or just maybe that they've never traveled before and they don't know what to expect. So we have different packets of information that I will share, in which gives some tips and provides some information to help them prepare for their trip. I also give them a little sensory packet that might help them navigate through some of the challenges that they might face, especially now with COVID. Um, we are seeing things trend in a different direction, but over the last 2 years, some of these kids might have had a difficult time getting on an airplane and wearing a mask. So finding ways to help them navigate those challenges is where I come in addition to working with the resort or the destination that they're heading to make sure they have all the appropriate information on how to get any accessibility information that they need. Disney World, for example, offers a disability access pass, which helps them navigate through the lines more quickly. So there's a lot of different little intricacies depending on the place that they're heading to that I can help them get through.
Awesome. That is such a great, thought to be able to do that. When I saw your bio, that amazed me. So, one of the things that, um, in her bio, you said, and I love this, your family lives to collect memories and not things. So
Mhm.
I so appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us today because I know that's going to help some other families be able to make PCSs more memorable, which is what this whole episode has been about. Now, Tara, give me your website so that everybody can find you, if you will, please.
Sure, it's adventuresassembledtravel.com.
And you can look Tara up, and I have no doubt, will take great care of you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tara.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome, and I really appreciate all you guys do as well for the military community.